Welcome to Rice TVX and the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. And today I am joined by CryptoJack. Some may know him as CryptoJack Live. The two of us met at Litecoin Summit 2022 in Vegas, where we both spoke, and I had to get him on the show. We're going to have links down below for everything we talk about. Give me a 5x5 if you can hear me. I'm getting things started for you moments away. And as always, before we begin, a few quick messages from the sponsors of Rice TVX, who make it possible for me to do this full-time for you. Shout out to Monarch Wallet and Presearch. You can always find information in every video description. Also, I want to let people know before we get started, yesterday I did go live with DZ, the host of Around the Blockchain and also one of the co-hosts of NFT Alpha. If you have not seen that live stream from yesterday, be sure to check that out. And the day before, that would have been on Tuesday, I went live with Bitcoin Ben. Be sure to check that one out as well in case you missed them. They are going to be on the channel. And just in case you missed them, I definitely encourage you to check it out. And before we begin, here we go. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain content. You will also find links to all of my various channels as well as my social media. Make sure you're following both of my YouTube channels, Rice TVX as well as Rice Against the Grain. And due to censorship, make sure you follow me on other alternative platforms such as Rumble and Odyssey, where I do post up exclusive content. If you want to support Rice TVX, be sure to check out and join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to my videos with no ads, unedited. You will also get exclusive content and more. Audio or not. So if it did clip out the audio, I greatly apologize. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. Make sure you guys are smashing that like button, and I will have links down below for everything we're going to be talking about on today's show. But without further ado, I am joined by Mr. CryptoJack. What is going on, my friend?
Not too much. What's up, Rice? Thanks for having me on, man. Been looking forward to this for a long time.
Likewise, man. I know it's been kind of hard to schedule because you call yourself an average dad, providing above average macro market analysis of Bitcoin, crypto, and traditional markets. So I appreciate and respect that you're a father and that family comes first, but I'm glad that we were able to make time for it to take place today, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I got married, I got kids, and I got a day job. So it's a lot to balance, but I'm glad we could make it all work out.
Married with kids with a day job.
That's it. That's
right
it.
On.
Isn't that funny? It's tough to be in the technical analysis side of crypto, especially because it's 24/7 and things happen in a blink. But what I've tried to do is start scheduling things, and I do Sunday and I do Wednesday, and I have a 2-hour block. The family's on board, everybody's on board, and they know kind of that's when I sit down and do my thing.
Sweet, man. Well, like I was mentioning during the intro of the live stream, the two of us, we met at Litecoin Summit 2022 in Las Vegas. We were both speakers. I was trying to think. I didn't go back and look at the video. Were you were on the panel that I moderated?
Yes, with the with Tom and Wendy and Danielle. Yes, and Danielle.
That's what I was thinking.
Danielle took some stabs at me, and we had some jokes and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a good time. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. And then you did like a workshop as well.
Yeah, just a technical analysis workshop on Litecoin, which actually went on to kind of play out in a way, which was pretty cool. So I had some people message me about that.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, the first question I like to ask people that I haven't brought on the show before, especially since we're into crypto, is when and how did you get involved in crypto?
Oh man. Okay, so I I wanted to make some money back in my college days. So this is like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I got into CS:GO skin trading, which is like, you in CS:GO Counter-Strike, you run around with these little guns and you can buy something that makes your gun look different from the other guy. So it's the same gun, but they just look a little different. So for whatever reason, I somehow found myself in that world and built up like a pretty good stack and stash using that and got to be pretty well known in that community. Well, one day I found myself owning a one of a kind item that was like the holy grail that no one could believe it. And some giant whale, I think I later learned he was a Dubai sheik, and I'm not even joking. This is like real legit.
Hmm.
He contacted me and he said, "Hey, I want to buy that item from you that you have for 50 grand ish. Like it was like 40 grand and change, but it has to be through Bitcoin." That's the rub. It has to be through Bitcoin. And so that was really my first introduction to crypto in general. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I was pretty nervous. This was probably 2016, I want to say. And when we ended up doing the deal, he sent me Bitcoin. And I think at the time I ended up with 60 or 65 Bitcoin for that one trade, and I sold all of them. It was $600-700 a piece, bro. I know it. So you do the math on like what could have been and that kind of thing. Meanwhile, 2016 turns into 2017. The bull run takes off. I'm still kind of keeping my eye on it because I was forced to learn a little bit just to even do the deal. And I'm kicking myself and I'm like, man. And so at the peak of 2017, I really started to understand what was going on, how markets work. And at that point, it was kind of my mantra to earn back what I lost, essentially. So this has been my journey. I want to continue to get better. And the only way that I have any kind of edge in these markets is by zooming way out and by acting really slow over months and years. So I'm not a day trader. I don't like doing that kind of stuff, and margin is not something I really use. So I primarily do spot only longs, and I'll close out or sell when the markets suggest that I do that. And hopefully we nail a cycle high and then buy a cycle low. So that's kind of where I come from, what I'm looking at.
Okay, cool. Now, when you were talking about, were you talking about in-game items?
Yeah.
What game was
Exactly.
it for?
It was Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and
Okay.
they shortened that down to CS:GO. They're
Okay.
talking
I'm
about
not
it.
a
Yeah.
big gamer, obviously. So, but
Yeah.
how like a lot of those games back in the day like had ways of preventing people from doing that. How do you give an item to another player or sell it to another player?
Well, so since this was a Steam game, there's like a little bit of a lottery component built into it. There's a little bit of gambling component, and then it's pretty easy to transfer items back and forth. So say you wanted what I had, or vice versa, I wanted what you had. It's as simple as on Steam, I send you a request for that item along with what I'm offering. Maybe we each have an item that we want from each other, and it suggests we trade them. You have to say yes, I have to say yes, and then it's a done deal. And now
Okay.
it's kind of built into it. It's pretty user friendly.
Okay, cool. Because a friend of mine used to play like stuff like World of Warcraft, and I wasn't sure if like you could pass off the weapons. I think he just like sold accounts.
Yeah, that's another way to do it if they're bound to that account. CS:GO does. I think they may do that. I have not really looked back at that in the last few years. So there may be some items that they do that with, but for the most part, it's still a pretty healthy community. It's still a lot of stuff going on.
This wasn't even anything I was planning on asking you, but since you brought it up, what do you think about like those kind of in-game items in the future being NFTs?
I think once people figure out that sweet spot, I'm not convinced that the NFTs as we know them today is the answer, especially if you just look at the public's perception of NFT. If you polled a room, maybe 50% love it, but for sure 50% hate it. Like the people that dislike it, they hate it with a passion. And I don't think you're really going to get very far with that kind of thing. So it's got to be repackaged in a way. But once, let's say they figure all that out, yeah, 100%. I think that's going to be a big deal going forward. Like where you own something yourself from a
Yeah,
game, whatever the game is.
I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, did you ever trade before cryptocurrency?
I only traded those kind of items, the CS:GO items. I never traded the stock market. I didn't have money for that kind of thing. Really.
Right.
I didn't have a dollar. And when I built up like $5,000 in the CS:GO side, that was like life-changing money for me. And then I sold the thing for 50 and it was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't lose any of this." And but once I got into crypto and one I was lucky enough to get into some early coins just before I really knew better. And one of them even went 100x from the point that I bought in. So I've had some success in that kind of stuff. Not that I suggest people, go out and
Right.
buying all kinds of altcoins or whatever.
No, we're
But
definitely not
but it was
financial
helpful.
advisors.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. NFA. No.
Um, okay, I kind of for some reason I don't know why I just thought because of like you kind of teaching about trading and getting into the whole crypto game of trading that maybe you had a past that involved prior like market experience. What made you decide to even get into that, like learning how to read charts and just trading in general?
Sure. So I guess the short answer is I like the challenge. I enjoy doing Rubik's cubes and that kind of thing. I want to pick something up and be like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And then doubly so, the second big reason was because I missed out on so much by making a bad decision right off the rip, like right at the beginning, selling all that Bitcoin I got for that item. So at that point, I kind of made it like a promise to myself. Look, if this can be figured out, I really wasn't sure until probably a year and a half ago. But if this could be figured out, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to try to help other people figure it out too. So that was probably in 2017. Bitcoin blew off to 20K, $20,000, and at the time, I came in contact with a guy by the name of Bitcoin Schmidtcoin on Twitter, and he was real
Okay.
big. He was real big on Reddit. And he said, "Hey guys, I think 20K is the top, and here's why." And he introduced me to the world of Wyckoff. And as somebody who does technical analysis on the macro, Wyckoff is like it is mind blowing. It's essentially, think of having a cookie cutter mold of what a market might do, like price action, and you can put it over the top of different moments on the chart. Maybe it's on Ethereum, maybe it's on Bitcoin. We've done it many times.
Hmm.
And if it fits the mold, then you kind of know where you are. Hey, this is the bottom. Hey, this is the top. And in that instance, he pointed out that this was the top. And that got me really kind of going down this road of, okay, maybe this can be learned. Maybe this is something I can get better at. And then from there, it kind of grew. And in 2020, I started seeing those same cookie cutter patterns, but for bottoms. And we saw it for ADA, Ethereum, the total two, the market, the chart that shows all of altcoins kind of cumulatively. There was three or four we saw, and they all were doing that cookie cutter mold of a bottom of like a Pico bottom. We're about to melt faces. Get ready. And so that's when I started streaming and tried to get that in front of people. No sponsors, nobody's backing me. I didn't know anybody in crypto Twitter. I didn't know anything, but I wanted to do what I could and kind of help people understand. So the streams started taking off and became more of kind of a Q&A. And I pride myself on being one of the few that interacts with the chat. Because when you go to other technical analyst streams, a lot of times they don't even look at the chat. They won't even see what it is. But my guys know that, like, it's not just about me spitting data out to, the listeners. It's about like battle testing ideas. So if one of the listeners says, hey, or one of the chat people say, hey, I think differently than you, and here's why. Well, that could change my mind, and maybe they're right. Like, we need to figure this out kind of collectively. So that's been
No, that
my
makes sense.
approach.
That totally makes sense, and I appreciate that. The other thing I was thinking about while you were talking about selling that Bitcoin, which I mean, there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but were you married at that time? And if you were, what does your wife have to say about that choice that you made? Because I'm sure she appreciated the income that came in from the in-game item, but what it could
Yeah.
have turned into is a completely different story.
Well, so she's there. She's right there with me because, I tried my best to in fact, when I sold all that Bitcoin, we sold all but 10 Bitcoin. There's like, this is kind of the side, not the side note, But she had a family member start a business, and we had a chance to get in on the ground floor and invest. But the only way to do it was to sell that final 10 Bitcoin. It was the only way we could afford to do it. So she and I talked and we talked and we talked, and we sold it. And we gave it to the guy. And like 3 years later, he gave us back our investment with nothing on top. And of course, Bitcoin had gone up like 20x at the time or whatever it was. So she's right there with me, understanding like this is not easy, number one. And number two, it's real simple to screw up and to leave, paper gains and give it all back essentially. So what I do is as I make some money on maybe a big macro trade or I think there's a Pico top and I'm finally taking profit, I carve a big chunk of that off for her. This is for a trip. This is for a purse. This is for whatever. So I need to splash her to make her happy. And then she kind of is like, okay, you do your thing. It's fine. And she also knows I'm only using money we can afford to lose if worst come to worst kind of deal.
Smart move. Yeah. Smart move. That's good to hear, man. And now as far as your channels, one, what made you decide to start your channel? And it seems like you're more focused on Twitch as a Twitch partner than YouTube, but you have your YouTube link posted versus your Twitch link. So are you trying to grow your YouTube? I guess that's 3 questions in one. Let's start with, why did you start your channel?
Yes. Okay. So I started on Twitch. I started on Twitch because I knew people on Twitch. That's kind of like answer number one. But also with that, like I knew some bigger guys. I thought maybe they could kind of help me get started. The other side that I learned quickly was there's really no technical analysts that are consistently streaming on Twitch. So I thought, well, look, if I can consistently do this, maybe I can trailblaze and be one of the first guys. Maybe Twitch even starts doing, promoting these kind of people, because really it's just run and gun, Battlefield, Call of Duty, that kind of thing. And then they got into the hot tub streamers and stuff, right? So I'm like navigating these 2 minefields and just providing chart content, right? And who'd have thought that it would have been as successful as it was? But to your point about the YouTube, yeah, we just recently started really promoting it. I've always kind of had it off on the side. I've had it for like 2 years. I had 500 followers. I never promoted it, but here's recently, I've really been trying to push it more. We're doing more shorts. One of my oldest mods, Pantauga, he does all my video work. He does all the thumbnail work. He does all the shorts. So he's real committed as well. So it's basically like I get the content, I put it all together, I make the connections, and then he'll work on putting the videos together.
That's cool. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's it. That's it.
Well, I encourage people, to make sure that they're checking out and subscribing to you on YouTube. I'm not personally a Twitch user, but how does the Twitch partnership come about? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so you have to check some boxes. That was actually a big deal for me. Once I was able to check those boxes, it's something like you need a certain amount of people to click follow and actually, follow you on Twitch. The second part was you had to have some kind of like average concurrent viewers. And that was the hardest one for me. For the first several months, I would get like 5 viewers or less concurrent. That was just the reality of the situation. But as I started kind of like warning people that something would happen, then it happened. I post about it on social media, on Twitter. I think at the time I had 5,000 followers or so. Mainly that had been built up through the CSGO side. But at least it kind of got people like talking and kind of spreading to their groups. And over time, people were like, okay, this guy's not trying to just get me to buy his bags. He's not just giving me BS because he's backed by, an exchange that's trying to promote one specific thing. He's just doing his thing. And the first sponsor I took was Bing X, which occurred right around the time of the Litecoin conference. So I went probably a year and a half with no sponsors or anything. And I think that helped with the growth as well.
It does. I think so. I mean, and having that extra support, it definitely, for me, it means a lot, because like with my revenue from YouTube and Patreon, it's not very much at all.
It's nothing. Yeah. I'm on that. Like I see that side of it. It's nothing.
And I mean, I could go get a full-time job and then not put out as much content. So it's kind of like this weighing the pros and cons of what works best for me in my situation. So,
right.
Let's get into some chart stuff, man. I meant to tell you before we started going live about, I was trying to show all you the fancy things that StreamYard could do, and I failed to tell you how to do a screen share. But if you want to go down to where it says present, and then you can either, if you want to do your full screen, you can. I would prefer if it's like a browser or a particular window.
Okay.
But however is easiest for you.
Share
us to.
screen. Okay.
Hasn't come through on my end yet.
All right. I
There it
think
is.
okay, you see that, and then
So you
I
got full
can.
screen. So okay, now I'm pulling it up. I
Okay.
got it on here.
All right. So I wanted to show a few things. I guess I went a little out of order here. Let's put these at the end. All right. So first things first, this is the kind of content that I love, right? This is my bread and butter. This is what gets me jacked up. If I go to the bar with some friends like Tom, or whoever, Tom Crown, then this is what's on my mind. It's like, what are the charts saying on the macro? This is like all I'm focused on. So the most recent important thing that's happened, in my opinion, is this falling wedge that finally broke to the upside. So the day it broke out, and this is my pinned tweet on Twitter, is like the first day candle that this broke out. I was like, buckle up, this is a big deal. And I put the two targets. We have target 1 and target 2. And as you can see, we have like hit target 1 to the penny, basically. Like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
to the pixel, wicked it and sold off. Now, what happens next?
When
I'm
did
not
you,
so sure. Oh,
if
go
you don't
ahead.
mind, I'm sorry. When did you come up with this particular drawing or this information?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways, and I
What I'm saying,
I think it might.
when
A
did you do it?
win.
Yeah.
20, like, we've been watching it for 2 months probably. So since December, I would say, is when it became very clear, because we needed this price action right here, which came on the back end of the FTX sell-off when everything sold off. That is what gave us this kind of lower support. We didn't have that until this happened. And so the conversation became, all right, look, if this really just kind of curls its way up and breaks out, then the pattern we have here is effectively like a pizza slice angled down. And this over, if this pattern occurred over like a week, it's a nothing burger. Forget about it. Go walk your dog, whatever. But the fact that it's over 6 months is a big freaking deal. So whenever you get a breakout here, you take it very serious. So we've been watching this, I think, since the early part of December, I want to say.
What time frame is that on?
These are daily candles. So every
Okay.
candle you see is an entire day. So this breakout was at about 18,000, 18,500. And then it gave you enough warning to, be able to ride it up to the 24K level. Now, that was kind of, let's call that the easy part. Buy the breakout, ride it up to the first target. Now is the hard part. This is where things get tricky. And here's why. If we go back and we look at, so I like thinking of Bitcoin in terms of the halvings. Let me just kind of give a nice overview here for everybody. So Bitcoin seems to do this thing where it has a halving, which is like, if the chat's not familiar with the halvings, basically there's a certain number of Bitcoin that is released into the wild every day. So the easiest way to think about it, and it's cut in half. So every so often. Yeah, right.
I've done videos
Exactly.
talking about this. So most
Okay.
should be familiar with the halving. Plus, we have the Litecoin halving coming up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Long way.
So each time we have a halving, we subsequently end up having a bull run. At least this is what's happened in history. So what I've been kind of focused on is, okay, the pre-halving year has typically been, the year before the actual, whenever the halving takes place. This has been when we've bottomed. This has been the bear market bottom has typically happened. So this was another thing we watched going back to November, December, just the similarities between the two. Look, we had a big sell-off going into the year before the pre-halving year. We had a big sell-off going into it, and now we're breaking up. So I am hopeful that something similar happens over here. But the problem is, back in this is 2019, we got above the pivot. The pivot is a really important level for markets. This is what most of the macro bots look at, big algorithms. They're all focused on this. The fact that we are under the pivot and it looks like we're selling off, right? We're at 22.2, I think, as we speak. That bothers me tremendously. I wish we had gotten above it, closed above it, and then that gives you a nice signal that we're going to go all the way up to 33 very quickly. But unfortunately, that's not the case. It's not what has happened.
The big question I guess I want to ask you, and we could dive more into it, is do you think that the 15.5, 15.6 area was the bottom?
I gotta say yes. Okay. So big picture because of this, because of where we are leading into the halving, and all that kind of stuff. So I gotta say yes. But here's the but. There's always a but, right? If we find ourselves back in this pattern, let's say we sell off and it's this big ugly sell off, and we wake up to 15K tomorrow, right? Worst case, doomsday kind of scenario. You've destroyed the structure that this provided. So if we find ourselves back in this pattern, or even God forbid on the bottom side of it, like 5K, 3K, like these are realistic targets. But do I think that's realistic? Do I think that's reasonable? Like, is that where the Vegas odds are for where we are right now? I don't think so. But like I said, this has been incredibly difficult to trade and really, really hard for people to follow along with. And on that note of difficulty, we had a first. You've probably seen this in crypto Twitter and on Twitter or whatever.
The death cross, golden cross scenario.
Yes. So we have on the daily, we have a golden cross, which is like everyone buys, on the 100x margin. This is like sometimes some of the best signals you're going to get is when you get a golden cross on the daily. This is when you have a fast moving average. Usually it's the 50 simple moving average crosses the
50
this is the
EMA?
fast, the 50 is crossing the 200. So
Right.
the 200 is the blue, the 50 is the orange, and now we finally have a cross. And this is the go long, send it, turbo moon, all that. So this is on the daily.
That's on a daily, but on a weekly or higher time frames, we see a death cross.
Yeah, which is like the polar opposite. So this is the sell signal of all sell signals. So this is the market.
Right.
The market's going to have
you're getting both signals at the same time.
Yes. I can't imagine a trickier situation than this. Like, I couldn't have designed something harder to trade than this. So if you're spot long, like if you bought Bitcoin because you think 2 or 3 years from now you're going to be fine, that's a great way to look at it. If you're dollar cost averaging, it's another great way to look at it. If you're 100x margin, you're probably going to lose it all. If you're 5x margin, you're probably going to lose it all. Like, this is just impossibly difficult to navigate right now. That's my takeaway.
Yeah. Now, from my perspective, because I interview a lot of different people in a wide area of markets, some non-crypto people, some people that are pro-crypto and pro-traditional markets and things to that effect. But when it comes to everything going on, there's question about what the Fed's going to end up doing, because I mean, Jerome Powell and I had Gareth all the way on the first, right before the announcement of everything happening. And I was expecting 50 basis points because we're starting to see like the stock markets and other markets going up, which is kind of getting away from reality, because that's not what the Federal Reserve wants to see. Then the job reports came in.
Right.
So the next Fed FOMC meeting, I think, is like mid-March, I believe. So I think then right. I don't know if you heard, but supposedly there's a secret closed door, or no, I shouldn't say secret, but a closed door SEC meeting regarding crypto today. And people are speculating on what that announcement could be. There's speculation they'll try to ban proof of stake, or just ban people from staking in the United States, making it a security. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I still feel like on a more macro global economic spectrum, when it comes to the fiat system, that we have a lot more pain to go, and people haven't quite realized that crypto is that lifeboat yet. So crypto, I feel, is going to suffer along with the traditional markets, in my opinion.
I think that's a very strong possibility that happens. People tend to forget that in history, whenever we have these interest rate hikes, it has always led to a recession. And sometimes those recessions don't come until the Fed says, hey, we're done hiking. So everyone endures all this pain, hike. All these businesses take all these losses, and it's harder to get capital, and loans are more expensive, and the whole thing. And the market's like, okay, we finally did it. They get all excited. And then the recession hits. So could that be the story of 2023? It's possible. But unfortunately, it's so cloudy for me. We have breakouts on all traditional market indexes.
I know.
We have the Dixie, the strength of the dollar, breaking down. You have all these things you'd want to see for a continued send it to the moon situation. But we just don't know. The reality is it's so
I want to
hard
look at
tell.
all those things and just be completely bullish. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to keep myself grounded in reality as much as possible.
Right. Agreed. It's all you can do. So like, here we go. We just fell below 22,000.
Oh,
For
did we?
Yeah, I just pulled the chart up. Literally
So
since
what are we down on the day?
so in one day we're down 4.2%.
We're down
But
6. Well, we were 666 on the 7-day. I was kind of scary there for a moment. I'm showing 22.1 on Coin Market Cap.
yeah, Binance is under 22, Coinbase is under 22. Maybe CoinMarketCap hadn't quite updated yet.
Same thing with CoinGecko, 22.1. It's
Yeah, it's
interesting how some
nasty.
of that stuff, and then let me pull up my trade view and see what this is.
21.8. It's just going. Oh man.
21.9 on trade view, yeah. Which
Yeah.
is using Bitstamp in my configuration here. Interesting, man. No, I mean I was just trying to look up information to see if anything came out about the SEC. So I mean, I wonder if I'm not seeing it yet. I'm just wondering what would have freaked the markets out.
Yeah, there's a saying, someone always knows,
especially if all signs are pointing to yes, except for that death cross.
Right, on the weekly.
Yeah. Now, golden crosses, I mean, do they always play out?
No, they don't. And just like death crosses, they don't. It's like it's a little better than a coin flip, but it's still effectively a coin flip. So it's better for headlines than actual trading. But here, the reality though is we've never seen a death cross on a weekly. It just hasn't happened. So we don't have anything to compare it to, and perhaps that's scary enough. But yeah,
Well, I was gonna say, when is the last time we've experienced a death cross on those kind of time frames?
never. So Bitcoin has never had a death cross.
So then we don't know. We
don't know.
We know that the golden cross isn't always 100% of an indicator, but we don't know about the death cross yet.
Well, I'll say it this way: on the daily candles, both the golden and the death cross is kind of a worthless indicator. It's like, yeah, maybe it goes the way you'd think, maybe it doesn't. But on the weekly, we have never had either a golden cross or a death cross on the weekly time frame. We've never had either of them, and just now we had a death cross on
Did it happen
this week. Well, they're touching. So like, close one more week and it will happen, unless we go to 28K in the morning or something.
So it
like
is
that.
possible that we just get real close and don't really quite cross.
It's possible, yeah. Like it skips off it like a stone off water and then continues, where everything's fine. That is absolutely possible.
Okay. I've heard a lot of talk too about double bottoms recently.
Yeah, on the macro,
especially with the Bitcoin cycle. That's why I keep bringing up the whole have we hit the bottom yet? A lot of people are saying they feel like we have, and I mean it's almost like what we're seeing with the death cross on a weekly and a golden cross on a daily is that there's so much division and confliction, but it doesn't seem like one side is outweighing the other. Normally you kind of have that. Now, when we went up, we obviously liquidated a shit ton of shorts.
Right.
And when we go up, we're going to liquidate a whole bunch, or when we come back down, we're going to liquidate a bunch of longs, but
late longs. Yeah.
But no one's really kind of got that vision 100% of, I mean, there's still some people calling sub 10K, which I don't see.
Yeah.
But I feel like what we haven't, like on a geo macro fiat level, we have not felt the full pain of all this shit yet.
You're probably right. So let me show you this real quick. I'm going to share this screen.
Okay.
And hopefully do it a little better this time. There we go. Okay. So here's how we're looking, right? There's a couple things that I like about what is happening now. Like, as in, like, even if I'm bullish, this is what would allow me to continue to be bullish. So I'm a big trade range fanatic. I love trade ranges. And so if you can encompass the price action with a couple lines, you've built a trade range. Congratulations. I know a lot of people are potentially viewing the market like that as well. Like
Apparently, Kraken disabled staking services. I know that Kraken is
US
apparently being investigated by the SEC about something to do with securities, like tokens that are securities, and allowing for the selling of. I don't know what's going to come out of it.
Jesse just followed me the other day, so I'll DM him. We'll see what he says. He won't respond.
No, that's really cool that he followed you, because that's somebody who I've been trying to get an interview for a while. A friend of mine actually works customer service for Kraken for like high-end customers. So I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not like as if he doesn't know and hasn't met Jesse before, but I still can never get. Anyways,
so here's all I wanted to say with it. Let's just focus on this right here. So as a technical analyst, I want structure in the charts. I honestly don't care what the news says 9 times out of 10. And I will follow what the news says just because I find it interesting now and then.
But you're show me the charts, I'll tell you the news guy.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So we have this parabolic downtrend right here. Now the reality is this is ugly, and there's nothing to say this is going to moon tomorrow. But here's the comma but. If we can close, number one, on the other side, close like get a candle and close it on this side of this parabolic downtrend, comma, and back above this horizontal, it's not that big of an ask, right? We're talking about 22,350. And so that's another $300. Like if we can come up here and go about a day to the right, just grind to the right for a day, maybe do the infamous Dalai Lama, then what you're talking about is a really nice reversal. So we have broken down. This is a big deal. Like, all eyes need to recognize that the breakdown here is the market's way of saying, okay, I guess we're going to Goblin Town. I guess we're going to sell off. The question is follow through. Is this big debate to blow out anybody with a late long with a stop right along this region where all these wicks are? Because if it is, and if we come back, that is one of the most bullish setups there possibly is. You've run everybody's stops who was long. Now you gig ascend it. Now you send it to 30K like in a week. Like, this is a potential really nice setup if we can get back into, north of this horizontal. So this is where my eyes are going to be, basically right here. What happens there? The worst thing that can happen to me with this price action is we grind our way up and never close. And then we do something like that, because that's GG in my opinion. And then at the same time, there'll probably be a big swell in sell volume, and volume confirms the move, right? This is like a big talking point. So if you have sellers showing up and we fail to reclaim this level, I mean, pick a number. There's nothing to say where we're headed.
Right. No, I agree. Since we have the Litecoin Summit coming up and we met, or Litecoin Summit, the halving coming up, and we met at the summit, do you mind pulling up the Litecoin charts?
Yeah. So Litecoin's having a bad day as well, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody's having a bad day in crypto.
Right. They're
with the exception of a few that are the chosen trades of the day or something.
Yeah, I got some random alerts like Link and I don't know, a couple others, but I don't know. I haven't looked at anything else, honestly, other than Bitcoin. But so you have Litecoin was in this really nice channel, big throw over. So that was a little scary, but it's fine, ping ponging its way around. And now it's broken down. And the question is, okay, how low can it go? What I dislike about all this is this period of up only. So while I like what Litecoin's doing, so the workshop I did was talking about this trade range actually. And talking about how if we can get above it, maybe have a little retest. I would have thought the retest would have been at the highs. So this surprised me, all that stuff right there. But that a retest would give it a lot of strength for a move up. But one thing I did notice is that the weekly 20 EMA, which I'll throw up really quick, was the last thing that was tested before blast off for Litecoin.
Okay.
So the question in my mind is that what it's doing? Is it going to come back and retest this weekly 20, like what happened here, before moving on? Now, that could be pretty painful, especially if you have a late long. That would be about $78. That correlates pretty nicely with that horizontal. So maybe that's where this is headed. And with that, perhaps the rest of the crypto market. So like, here's the what if. What if Litecoin's going back to $75? Nice round number. What if Bitcoin's going back to 20,000? Nice round number. And these things are kind of like macro retests before they continue. All fine, reasonable things to wonder.
With the halving coming up right now, it's estimated roughly around August 3rd, 2023.
I didn't know that, actually, so I'm glad you told me that. I'm going to put that on the chart.
Yeah, but so I'm curious, like normally, it's kind of one of those situations where we see a little bit of upward action in price action, and then a kind of a sell-off after the event. August is still kind of, I mean, we're still looking at maybe 7 months away from now. Is that right? No, 6 months away from now.
Yeah.
Which, you mean, a lot of things can happen in between now and 6 months, but I wasn't sure like how the charts were looking for that.
Well, look, what I was showing at first, this structure right here, this guy, that's a big deal, man. This is markets bottom with structures like that. Like, for example, this is a fun one. People like to see this. If I throw up Ethereum, turn the pivots off really quick, and throw log on. Ethereum did something very similar before it broke out and went to the moon. Like, this is Ethereum going from, $300 to 5,000. These are really, really important structural setups. This period of time was about a year and a half. This one was like 7-8 months. So it's not as long, which leads you to be a little less confident in what's happening, but it's still effectively a long period of sideways, many retests, no more lows, and consistent higher high. So you have a higher high, and so you have a high and a low, a higher high and a higher low, a higher high. So even if it does come down and retest, it doesn't break the structure of what we're talking about. Just like Ethereum, did something like that. Another one that it would.
Well, that kind of works out though with the halving though too. I mean,
exactly.
That's what I'm thinking. And then there's a lot of, I'm not sure if you've heard this, especially if you don't really necessarily pay attention to news, is that when regulation is clarified, when we have a lot more clarity with what the SEC is going to do, that Litecoin should fall under the same category as Bitcoin because of the way it was launched, the code, everything to that effect, which would make Litecoin a commodity, not a security, which would make it a safer bet compared to some things that you just have no clue where the SEC is going to rule, regardless of the library SEC precedents that was set with secondary market sales not being securities, regardless of that.
Right. And I'm with you. And I've seen some really interesting price action on Ethereum that almost makes it seem like a lot of the Ethereum whales are switching over to Litecoin. I can't prove that, obviously. I can't even follow that on chain, but it's just interesting things that I've noted in the price action between the two. And we all know that Ethereum's effectively just gone sideways for the last year. And every time it gets a nice start of a start rally, it starts to break out, it sells off over and over and over. Meanwhile, if I go to Ethereum Bitcoin chart, this is a nothing burger. It's just 90 degrees to the right. We look at Litecoin on the Bitcoin pair, and it's up like 4x or 5x from the lows. It's in a year. So there is some heavy positioning going on, and it's not taking place in Ethereum, and it is taking place in Litecoin. And I think it's also worth noting with the nodes, the OFAC compliant nodes for proof of stake, right?
Yeah.
For Ethereum. I think that's been a big deal to the people who are in my ear, that it makes them dislike Ethereum more. And then they personally are moving to Litecoin as a result of that.
No, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I did a video about Litecoin not too long ago, just talking about, it's the longest existing chain, has had no problems. It was able to benefit from all of the problems that Bitcoin had. I mean, when I argue with people about this, that Bitcoin is not immutable because there's been a rollback on the chain. Whether or not that could take place today might be a different story, but there was an inflation bug that took place, and they basically took it back to the block prior to get rid of that inflation bug that created way more Bitcoin than the original 21 million intended. I think it surpassed Ethereum and active addresses that have sent or received a transaction. The other thing that's really big that I like to tell people is that you probably wouldn't even have Dogecoin today had it not been for what Litecoin did with the merge mining to keep the project alive from being 51% attacked.
And I'll add to that. I had Charlie on the stream once, and he made the comment, I don't know if Litecoin would be here, or at least as popular, if Dogecoin wasn't here, because the security features that just like his slideshow at the Litecoin conference, where he said Doge was like the guard dog in front of the house. It just helps with security. I thought that was funny.
I just think, and it's cool to see that kind of that symbiotic relationship between the two different cryptocurrencies. I think merge mining is a really cool thing, and we should probably be utilizing that technology more.
Yeah, no, agreed. And it seems like everybody likes it, and it's worked out. So,
well, one thing I did share it, but there's a website that people can check out that gives some information about the halving for Litecoin. It's litecoinblock.com. This is where I'm getting the estimated date. If people want to get an idea, if you don't know what a halving event is, this will explain it. And it's the same thing for Bitcoin, because Litecoin is literally just an improved version of Bitcoin that's 4 times faster, 4 times the supply, 4 times the halving, because the halving on Bitcoin takes place, I think, every 21,000 blocks or 210,000 blocks.
Yeah, I think it's 210, right?
And then it's 840 for Litecoin, I believe. Something like that. 884. No, I think it's 84. Yeah.
It's like divided by 4, right? Oh, there it is. It's like on the third bullet point there. Halving is every 840,000 blocks. Yeah. Oh, so multiply by 4. Yeah.
Which is why it's estimated, because you don't know, because not every block is consistently, for Bitcoin, not every block is consistently 10 minutes. And for Litecoin, not every block is consistently 2.5 minutes.
Right. There's always an adjustment. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation today. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
I encourage people, if they're not following you on Twitter, I'm going to have your Twitter information down below, as well as your Twitch channel. And I definitely want to encourage people to subscribe and get your subscriber number up over on YouTube.
Thanks.
And we definitely got to do this again, man. But before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts, anything that you want to add?
No, just I would say limit your margin usage right now. Spot's probably fine. It's a good time to be DCAing in. But otherwise, don't be playing with money you can't afford to lose, and be smart. Make a plan and stick to the plan. This whole reason my wife got this, because that's like kind of the mantra to my stream is like, I want to encourage everybody to come up with their own plan and stick to the plan. It's not about my plan. It's about your plan.
Is it a reminder to you though, too, to stick to the plan from your wife?
Yeah, that she's the boss. It's like the reminder that that's the plan, that she's in charge, that kind of thing.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the stream by myself. I appreciate your time, and I'll get in contact with you so that we can do this again and not make it so long in between.
Sure. You got it. 10-4. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks again for your time.
You got it. Y'all have a good one.
Brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. I do want to remind people, in case you don't know, I've said it on a couple different live streams. I said it yesterday when I was live with DZ. I will be on Around the Blockchain today at 5:00 p.m. Eastern time on Around the Blockchain channel today, 5:00 p.m. Eastern time. I want to remind people, in case you missed them, I did do that interview with DZ yesterday. So if you missed that interview, be sure to check it out. The day before, this past Tuesday, I had Bitcoin Ben, your favorite ex-truck driver in the whole wide world, on the show. Be sure to check those out in case you missed those episodes. Sunday, me and Crypto Blood went live together on both of our channels. I also released a couple days ago my second interview with Jason Brashears from Archaics on my new YouTube channel, Rice Against the Grain. Make sure you subscribe. Links are down below for Rice Against the Grain YouTube channel. If you're a fan of the Stranger Than Fiction content, where I go down the rabbit holes of fringe topics, conspiracies, the legal fiction, law studies, hidden alternative history, spirituality, and more, that is now going to be over on Rice Against the Grain. So make sure you subscribe. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to tune in for today's live stream. Tomorrow on Rice Against the Grain, I will be premiering my interview with Sheriff Richard Mack. I may put a clip of that up here on Rice TVX. I may ultimately end up reposting the interview depending on how many views it gets on Rice Against the Grain. But I definitely encourage you to check that out. He's a constitutional sheriff that is upholding and defending the Constitution. You can get early access and watch it right now over on my Patreon channel. And I'll go ahead and throw some information about my Patreon before we wrap things up. So here is information about my Patreon. But I will be phasing out Patreon over the next few months because I am having a private website being built with private servers, private hosting, where I can have my videos, where you can get early access, exclusive content, and more. Plus, there'll be a community building factor where we can communicate directly on this website. If you want lifetime access to that, I'm doing a fundraiser, trying to raise $5,000. Right now, I have about 32 or 34. I don't want to mention a number in between, but 32 to 34 people that have already signed up. 50 people will get lifetime access and a special swag bag gift from me of Rice Against the Grain and Rice TVX swag, stickers, patches, pens, other items. I will be sharing more about that as I have the majority of items. Very limited edition run of all of this merch for Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain. $100 gets you lifetime access. Send an email to ricemediagroup@protonmail.com and put lifetime in the subject line, and you'll find information with my PayPal, my Cash App, and cryptocurrency addresses scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now, and they are also in the video description. If you send money, because I've had 2 people send money and haven't emailed me, I need you to email me. I need you to send me a confirmation email that you sent money so I can confirm and get you added. Until the website is built, I will send people links directly via email so you still get access to all the early videos, exclusive content, and more. I'm going to be recording a video tomorrow afternoon that's going to be updating the patrons and lifetime members about what's going on in the next week with Rice TVX, because I got some exciting interviews. I got an exciting interview I'm going to be doing late tomorrow night that's going to be released on Rice Against the Grain next week. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all that good content. Once again, if you want lifetime access, $100, email ricemediagroup@protonmail.com. Put lifetime in the subject line if you want to support the channel, and it would be greatly appreciated. And before we wrap things up, I will go ahead and check out the last 2 comments here. I do appreciate everybody again for taking the time to tune in. I can't pronounce this name. Smale Case. Ozzy, good seeing you. And we have Mr. Crypto Space UK. Again, yeah, I didn't hear anything about the Ripple case today. I've heard that there's some rumors, but I haven't heard anything specific. So if I hear more, I'll try to do an updated video or include it in one of the future videos. So I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to tune in. If you're not subscribed already, I ask, what are you waiting for? Make sure you are subscribed. And before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a very positive message. I encourage you to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in the matrix. Be the change that you want to see in this world. And until next time, practice change.